Russia's seaborne crude oil shipments to the G7 were capped at $60 a barrel on December 5, 2022. This was promptly retaliated against by China and India. The impact of new petroleum product caps set for later this year, in 2023, is projected to be substantial. Russian President Vladimir Putin has threatened to cut off energy exports to nations who adhere to the price limit and other penalties. As long as Russia is encouraged to keep producing, the price restriction will also modestly aid those nations whose economies are struggling to get beyond poverty. Most policy signatories had already cut down on Russian energy imports by the previous spring. Yet the majority of cargo firms throughout the globe will be subject to it since most shipping insurers and other critical aspects of the sector are integrated in the price cap coalition. Russia, in particular, may have difficulties in exporting from freeze-prone ports because of its dependence on foreign ice class. Russia reports a rise in oil output of 2 to 535 million metric tons, with exports increasing by 7 despite these restrictions, while China is avoiding this through the few ice tankers, Beijing and Moscow. Same thing in 2022, only with law. At the same time period, production of gasoline and diesel both grew by 4.3% and 6.0% respectively, while LNG output jumped by 8% to 46 billion cubic meters. In 2022, the oil and gas industries contributed an additional 28T, or $36.07 billion, to Russia's federal budget. The Kremlin might gain an additional $3.05 billion in income in 2020 from loan tariffs alone. If these numbers are accurate, it's evident that Moscow eased some of the limitations on its energy industry by offering preferential pricing to China and India. During the first half of 2022, the majority of Russia's Arctic oil shipments moved to northern Europe, illuminating this trend. By the end of the year, less than a third were bound for the area, and by November, the focus had shifted almost entirely to Asia. An unprecedented 16 million barrels of oil is the median prediction for China's need in 2023, according to a poll of industry experts. Energy goods produced in Russia contribute significantly to this supply. By 2022, this region will send more oil and gas to Beijing than Saudi Arabia. The proportion of imports was 22.22%. Data on China's current Arctic crude production is scarce. Yet, it is apparent that Moscow's pricing cuts will allow Beijing to satisfy its short-term demands at low cost, while also boosting long-term ambition. Instead of making China reliant on Russia, these agreements strengthen Beijing's leverage in negotiations. For example, although importing just 10 of the coal needed to meet its energy demands, China is increasingly avoiding traditional routes that run via Russian territory. China also has access to fuel from other countries. While the United States works toward its goals of energy independence, self-sufficiency, and expanded influence in the Arctic, it must consider the region's indigenous people. Between April and December of 2022, India's situation may get more worrying. Around 64,000 barrels per day were shipped out of Russia. By October, BPD of Arco and Novi will have shipped high-quality Arctic crude from the port of Navi. Wool shipped high-quality Arctic crude from the port of Novi. At the end of November, Russia had surpassed Saudi Arabia as India's primary crude oil supplier. The Russian Federation supplied a record 6.67 million barrels of Arco Novi port oil and 4.1 million barrels of Verticrude to India in December, when India began importing the latter grade for the first time. Russia's oil shipments to India totaled around 1 million b from June 2022 all the way through December 2022, reached a record high of 1.19 million BPD in December. In January of 2023, the Verter blend's deliveries were expected to increase by a factor of 2, setting a new high seas setting. However, there were no publicly accessible data on this topic at the time of publication. There is no doubt that short-term concerns motivate India's continued import of Russian gasoline. Unless anything drastically changes the country's economic outlook, it will virtually definitely keep buying from Russia and increase Arctic cooperation with Moscow. Moreover, New Delhi published its Arctic and Antarctic policy in 2022. Politics have prevented the United States from having an ambassador in India since Vice President Joe Biden joined office, damaging relations between the two countries. Filling this void is the first step in weaning India off of Russia and preventing its entanglements with China. As an added measure, aid should be provided to important strategic developing countries so that they may maximize the benefits of low energy costs while minimizing the risks associated with this. This time, cargo ship Time Marais needed to be escorted there, and icebreaker Captain Konstantin Keller-Rev explains why. Goods from Terre were dumped onto the river ice when the two ships met up at Cape Tan. The cargo on board will be used in SNIF's ambitious Arctic project. This is Voss Oil. In the next months, a plethora of goods will be delivered to Tan AU and nearby facilities. Rosin is pushing to get the Voss ready as soon as possible, which is expected to generate several million tons of oil by 2024. Sea Bear, its sister ship Hero, and several conventional diesel engine icebreakers, Crossen, Victor Cherno, Midden, Rosa, and Flock, have all been chartered by the oil corporation. The accompanied ship needs as much speed as possible. Thus, the more straight it is, the better. Tan La, captained by icebreaker Captain Konstantin Keller, is situated on the East River. The ship's Terre was brought ashore safely this time instead of cargo. Goods from Terre were discharged into the river ice once the two ships met around Cape Tan La. A large number of cargoes, including those on the Terre, will be delivered to Tano and other ports in the coming month as part of SNIF's massive Arctic project, Voss Oil. Rosin Oil. Rosin is pushing forward with plans to develop Sake Oil, which is expected to generate several million tons of oil by 2020. Crossen and Victor Cherno make Rosium Flat confirm that the oil business has hired not only the nuclear icebreaker Sea Bear, but also the sister ship Euro and the traditional diesel engine icebreaker. Environmentalists and native inhabitants of the region are worried about the impact of Voss stock oil drilling on the ecosystem in the northernmost part of the Timor Peninsula. When Greenpeace activists visited Tan La in 2016, they found several instances of environmental abuse. There's a high potential for accidents and oil leaks due to the area's poor weather. It threatens to severely disrupt the delicate ecosystem of the Arctic. The group said that indigenous groups had protested with the Association of Indigenous Peoples of Terre, joining Greenpeace in 2016 to ask federal authorities to keep an eye on indigenous peoples' rights in the region. I'm curious as to your thoughts on Russia's sanctions. If you're interested in learning more about the future of business and investment, please leave a comment below. Both of our videos may be seen at the bottom of this page. Just hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you in the future episode.